Mo Odom has been hot as of late for Sun Devil basketball, but can it hold as the Sun Devils welcome #1 Arizona for the final game of this year's T-Cup series?
Greg Powers and ASU hockey are shorthanded to say the least, with Colin Potter and Jack Beck both out for the season. The Sun Devils suffered back-to-back untimely losses to North Dakota. We'll break down what might be in store for their future.
Molly Miller got her first taste of the T-Cup in Tempe with a record attendance set for ASU women's basketball. All that and more on this week's edition of Cronkite Sports Live. Welcome back inside Studio 6 for a brand new season of Cronkite Sports Live. Gabby Chernoff and Jacob Brooks joining you from downtown Phoenix this afternoon. It really feels like spring has sprung, even though it's still only January. Rest of the country experiencing a cold front, but 70 degrees and sunny here in Arizona.
Yeah, Gabby, the weather has been perfect here in Phoenix for season 24, the Kobe season of Cronkite Sports Live. It's been a busy time of year for both ASU men's and women's basketball with T-Cups this week, but first we got to talk about what happened to ASU men's basketball on the road against UCF. ASU was trying to improve its conference record that was 2-5 coming into this one. Let's go straight to the first half. Bryce Ford with the smooth jumper to get the Sun Devils on the board. ASU would be a little bit slow on offense in the first half, but Pig Johnson right there with the three at the top of the key to keep things rolling for ASU. Now Pig Johnson pokes it loose. The Sun Devils showing off that chemistry and ball movement. Then Mukeba throws it down, slides all the way over to the UCF bench. Needed a little help to get up there. Let's go to the second half. This is when ASU would start to heat up. We've got Bryce Ford getting the handoff for Mukeba and drilling another three. ASU's offense would keep rolling with Masamba Jop hitting the Euro. Looking like Giannis on that one. I was unfamiliar with your game, Jop. Mo Odom taking his time up near the half-court line, pulling it from way downtown. But this is where the Sun Devils would peak. UCF would go on a 21-6 run at the end of the second half and get the victory 79-76. Another blown game for ASU. Here was Bobby Hurley after the loss.
It's brutal to lose. It always is, and this was certainly a winnable game. I thought we played very well. We only have, 10 games left so in league play, so it's getting late just to feel good that we played well. I mean, it's time where you have to capitalize and try and win these kinds of games.
After going 4-16 in his inaugural season in the Big 12, Bobby Hurley overhauled his roster, which now includes just one returner from 2025. ASU went 9-4 in its non-conference schedule, but Hurley's tactics have proven still to be no match for what is widely considered the nation's best college basketball conference. Now, 8 games into the Big 12 slate, our Jaden Ricken has the numbers.
Nearly halfway through conference play, ASU men's basketball sits at a 2-6 Big 12 record, a record that closely reflects the ongoing struggles with team morale amid repeated failures on both sides of the ball. One positive from this season so far, though, has been Mo Odom's evolution. Originally recruited as a pass-first guard, he's harnessed his shooting ability, putting up big numbers, including 33 against Cincinnati, while shooting 58.8% from the floor. Unfortunately, the rest of the team has not been able to match his level of play. Out of the last 5 games, Odom has averaged 0.59 points per minute across 168 on the floor. Masamba Jop, who ranks second in minutes to Odom, has played 153, but only averaged just 0.31 points per minute. So for the amount Odom's playing, the consistency is great. It's just that none of his teammates logging similar minutes are anywhere near that level. To turn it around, they'll have to shoot well above their season average of 45.8% from the field and 34.9% from three. But it's not just the shooting where the Sun Devils have struggled. They're also losing the offensive rebound battle. Against UCF earlier this week, ASU grabbed just 5 offensive boards, resulting in only 6 second chance points. UCF, meanwhile, had 13 offensive boards that they then converted into 17 second chance points. Overall, ASU has out-rebounded their opponents by 2.4 per game this season. So defensively, they've done a much better job of recovering the rock. But these missed opportunities for second chance points on offense have become extremely costly. In their last 6 games alone, 4 of them have been decided by a margin of 12 points or fewer. So with chances of making the NCAA tournament likely already out the window, the future of Bobby Hurley and what this team may look like in a year now rests on if a breakthrough can finally be made and if the team can return to its early season play style.
Thanks for those current numbers, Jaden. Let's go back to a blast from the past. Tomorrow's Duel in the Desert marks the 4th time this century a #1 ranked squad has taken the mid-season trip to Tempe. The first 2 were tough losses for ASU, but there was some magic in the air for the Sun Devils against the then #1 ranked Kansas Jayhawks all the way back in 2018. Our Tyler Weiss has more with another edition of The Vault.
Can you believe 2018 was 8 years ago? I know, it's pretty shocking, isn't it? On that note, it was December 22nd when Rock Chalk came to the Valley and was in for a big shock. Top-ranked Kansas traveled to Tempe, where the 18th ranked ASU men's basketball squad looked to bounce back after dropping 2 of its last 3. But this Jayhawks team held the top spot for a reason. And for a whole half, the Sun Devils were challenged by the grit of this Kansas team. ASU would go into the second half trailing by 8. For the Sun Devils, it was an offensive struggle that put the team in a deficit, as the team shot just 29% from the field in the first half. ASU needed a hero, and sometimes a hero doesn't have to be Batman, because Robin gets the job done too. And in this case, Robin was Rob Edwards. Coming off the bench, Edwards led the team with 13 points in the second half. With the rest of his team combining for 36, the Sun Devils outscored Kansas 49-37 in the second half, en route to a 4-point victory. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Tyler Weiss.
In ASU's last contest just over 2 weeks ago against #1 Arizona, it wasn't, well, much of a contest. Now the Wildcats are still #1, 21-0, and the only undefeated Power 4 team left in the country. ASU plays them tomorrow as the first of its last 10 regular season games. Here's Caleb Harris with the past, present, and future of this year's Sun Devil basketball season.
Feels like a huge possession here for Arizona State. Ford hits.
Bryce Ford's 3 sent the Sun Devils to the locker room with the lead and complete control of their season's fate. Ultimately, though, their performance was unsustainable and Arizona came back for the win. Still, traveling to Tucson and competing with the #1 team in the country gave reason for hope in Tempe. That is, until ASU's 30-point loss just 4 days later against #7 Houston.
You know, we were really good at Arizona, and I thought, heck, if we could play the #1 team in the country to a 1-possession game under a minute, that says something that we could be competitive. And then we laid an egg at Houston. So we've got to put together and string together some quality games.
Stringing together quality games seems like a lofty goal right now, as ASU is struggling to even string together quality halves. Starting at Arizona, the team is 1-4 in its last 5 games, but they were leading at halftime in 4 of those. Even in their win over Cincinnati, the Sun Devils gave up a 9-0 run to nearly give up the lead with just 6 minutes left. Perhaps the most crushing loss was against UCF. ASU led for 24.5 minutes before giving up the lead with 34 seconds left. In order to turn the season around, Hurley's call for consistency must be answered. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Caleb Harris.
Sun Devil Hockey hosted the #4 Fighting Hawks, and hey, you might recognize him. That's Gibson Homer, his first return to Mullet since transferring this season. All right, we'll kick things off in the first period. Ellis Rickwood, just as ASU was about to successfully kill a Nodak power play, tips it right past Connor Hasley. It's 2-0 about 11 minutes into the period. Now in the second, cross-ice feed. One-timer by Carmelo Crandall, power play goal to tie things up at 2 apiece. Lucius and Shinnick with the Apples on the game-tying goal. But we'll head into the third here now and watch this open ice hit that was missed in real time for a 5-minute major penalty that would have given ASU a lengthy power play. Brawl at the other end of the ice, 9 penalties assessed in that third period and 2 game misconducts. ASU falls 7-4 on the Friday night. Game 1. Now game 2, here we go. Sun Devils with the lead. Lucius sends it down low, and it's Sam Alfano with the power play marker to make it 2-0 ASU 9 minutes in. Right into the third period now, 3-2 ASU. That slowly turns into 3-3. Sun Devils had a 3-1 lead with under a minute left to go in the second period, and another North Dakota goal that would make it 4-3, their first lead of the night, and 5-3 the final score from Tempe. Here's Greg Powers after the loss.
We have to learn from it. We have to get better from it. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to happen. So when you have a lead against Penn State both nights, you don't win. You up at North Dakota, the game we lost, we were tied going into the third. Here, we're up and we're down 1. You're in every game. You have to find a way to have a better third.
If before the season you showed Greg Powers what his lineup would look like at the end of January with 2 of his star players out, he might have had a heart attack. Due to a multitude of season-ending injuries and unforeseen circumstances, the current lineup for Sun Devil hockey looks vastly different than it would at full strength. Our Jacob Fredericks has more as he takes a trip to the Sun Devil graveyard.
As Arizona State enters the last 10 games of its season, its roster depth is almost at a point of complete death. When the Sun Devils started the season, they had a 28-man roster. Now, the roster is down to 24 healthy players. The Sun Devils lost freshman forward Jack Beck for the season in November after he scored 5 goals and 3 assists. Sophomore forward Cullen Potter took a hit against Miami and had season-ending surgery after racking up 12 goals and 14 assists. Potter was on ASU's top line that was at one point the top scoring line in the nation. Forward Justin Clouchet and defenseman Austin Zemlak have also opted to return to juniors. With 4 players gone for the season, ASU's roster looks depleted as ever. Last week against North Dakota, the Sun Devils had just 1 healthy scratch available. Because ASU opted into the house settlement, it is unable to add any additional players after the season has started, as other teams around the country have done.
You're locked. Once you're locked, you're locked. If you opt into the house settlement, it is what it is. Where you see some of these other programs, either they didn't opt in and they can add, that's an advantage to not being a part of it, or maybe they didn't max out their roster. Where we were at 25, and then we added Jack Beck late, right? So when we added him, we were stuck for the year.
With the graveyard of Sun Devil losses already full, ASU will look to avoid losing any more key players for the season as it looks to make a final push for the NCHC playoffs and NCAA tournament. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Jacob Fredericks.
The National Collegiate Hockey Conference, or the NCHC, is rebranding to be known as the National, ahead of its addition of a 10th member next season, the St. Thomas Tommies. With that, here's Colgan Herschel with a brand new segment to give you an idea of where things stand in the National.
Arizona State hockey finished its first conference tournament as semifinalist after a loss to Denver last season. This year, not only are the Sun Devils fighting to host the first round of the NCHC tournament, but they're straining to make the tournament as a whole. ASU will have to make a push of a lifetime to make the dance, as I'll discuss in the first edition of the... Can we change that? There we go. On the first edition of the National Narrative. The Devils are currently 6th in the NCHC, 2 points in front of their next opponent, the last-place Colorado College Tigers, who are the only team in the conference out of conference playoffs right now. Now at the top, North Dakota has been number 1 in the NCHC since December 15th, and the top 4 teams haven't changed in over 2 months. ASU has been in the top 4 just once this season when it was tied with 3 other teams on November 3rd. If there's a part of ASU's game that's lacking, it's third period play. ASU has been outscored 20-11 in the final frame of conference contests, plus 3 losses after entering the third period with a lead, equating to a -12 goal differential overall. Not a pretty statistic for head coach Greg Powers. And because of its 7-8-1 conference record, ASU will likely play on the road for the NCHC quarterfinals. This year, the National removed the Frozen Face-Off tournament, where the first round was played at the higher-seeded school, and the rest of the tournament was played in St. Paul, Minnesota in the Minnesota Wild Rink. For 2026, all rounds will be played on campus. Last season, 44 points and 14 conference wins earned teams a host playoff series. To achieve that this year, ASU would have to win 9 of its last 10 games in regulation to earn 27 points over that stretch and bring first-round hockey back to Tempe. Back to you, Gabby.
Hey, why don't we go back to Desert Financial Arena? This time, the Sun Devil women's basketball team hosting Arizona for the first time under Molly Miller. First quarter here, it's Amaya Williams down the court, gets it to Gabby Elliott for the layup. That would be Elliott's 10th straight game scoring in double digits. Here's Poe at the half court with the handoff to Waschnitz, drives it into the paint. The left-handed finish. ASU would lead 33-26 at the half. Back from break, McKenna Brackens with the one-on-one, able to get a shot away around the defender with the step back for 2, her 7th double-double of the season on that one. And here's Marley Waschnitz from beyond the arc. She sinks that one for 3. In the fourth quarter now, Williams with the ball again to Elliott for the mid-jumper, 60-55 Sun Devil lead. Here's Carrera. She's looking for Williams. Gets it out to Williams, back to Carrera, puts it in off the square. Sun Devils lead 62-59. They held U of A scoreless in the last 2:13 of this one. Win the game 68-61. Here's Molly Miller after the victory.
So if we go on droughts where we don't score, we have to prevent the other team from getting back-to-back buckets. So we usually say 3 stops in a row. So during that timeout, we reset. We say, okay, we need 3 stops in a row. That's our goal right now. So kind of compartmentalizing the game a little bit. There's not a 7-point play that can bring you back in the game. Just get stops.
The Territorial Cup between the University of Arizona and Arizona State is one of the fiercest rivalries in all of college sports. And in recent years, it's safe to say the Wildcats have had major custody over the T-Cup. It's been 4 long years for Sun Devil fans since the Sun Devils were last in the driver's seat of this heated rivalry. So for more on how the Desert Duels have been going this year and what it will take for ASU to try and finally reclaim the throne, here's our Brady Foxwell.
If you don't like that, you don't like Sun Devil basketball.
Those were the words of Arizona State women's basketball head coach Molly Miller after Wednesday's victory over the University of Arizona. For the Sun Devils, this was a much-needed win that puts the series score at 5-2, but how exactly did we get here? Well, Arizona State actually struck first when J.J. Van Niel and company beat the Bearcats in Tucson to kick off the Duel of the Desert. Sun Devils 1/2, Bearcats 0. An October soccer match that ended in a tie gave each team half a point, but a sweep of the cross-country championships, coupled with a women's triathlon W, gave Arizona 3 more unanswered. The Sun Devil volleyball team would then beat U of A again, cutting the Bearcat lead to 2. On the gridiron, an injury-riddled Arizona State squad was pummeled by the red-hot Bearcats to extend Arizona's lead yet again. Number 1 ranked U of A then added another half a point on the hardwood despite Mo Odom's best efforts. Finally, Gabby Elliott led the Maroon and Gold to a 68-61 victory on Wednesday, and the men's team hopes to avoid a sweep tomorrow and get the Sun Devils closer to bringing the Territorial Cup to Tempe. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Brady Foxwell.
Sun Devil water polo wasted no time, making a big splash in the first week of their season, going 5-0 at the Malmston Invitational, including ranked wins over number 13 UC San Diego and number 17 Michigan. For more on what fueled ASU's electric undefeated start, here's our Mahala Reynolds.
Arizona State water polo made waves, opening up their season at the Malmston Invitational, going 5-0 with 3 wins over ranked opponents. This successful start marked ASU's first 5-win opening weekend since 2013 and launched the Sun Devils to number 6 in the Collegiate Water Polo Association, their highest ranking since 2018. ASU dominated in every area of the pool, scoring a total of 88 goals across all 5 games, and the defense was just as impressive, racking up 57 saves and finishing with more steals over every opponent besides LMU, who matched ASU. The Sun Devils were guided by their strong veteran core, spearheaded by players such as Millie Quinn, who ended the weekend with a total of 25 goals and 10 assists. And it's clear that it carried over to the younger players such as freshman Laura Cardos and Camelia Bulik-Baki, who showed themselves to be a force finding the net 6 times each, followed by freshman Dominika Cardos and Iris Vreeling, who tallied 5 each. the Sun Devils showed what it meant to execute, ending the weekend with a 53% shooting percentage and holding their opponents to just 32.9%. With no better way to start a season, the Sun Devils look ahead to this weekend at the Triton Invitational at UC San Diego with potential matchups against number 2 USC and number 3 UCLA, looking to keep their perfect season intact. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Michaela Reynolds.
One of ASU's most prominent swimmers, Ilya Haroun, has made big waves in the national swimming scene, officially switching his national allegiance from Team Canada to Team USA. For more on what the Sun Devil record setter's move means for the broader landscape of the sport, here's our Morgan Tremole.
Arizona State star junior swimmer Ilya Haroun has spent nearly his entire life in the United States. He was raised in Las Vegas and now resides in the Valley. On Monday, Haroun announced via his Instagram that he had officially changed his national team allegiance to the U.S. after 3 years as a butterfly specialist for Team Canada. Member of the Maroon and Gold, Haroun is a 13th-time All-American and holds the ASU record for both the 100 and 200-meter butterfly. In addition to those records, he's also a 6-time Pac-12 champion and 5-time Big 12 champion. That success has carried over to the international stage. While on Team Canada in 2024, Haroun took home 2 bronze Olympic medals in the 100 and 200-meter butterfly, helping Team Canada make a swimming resurgence. He then went on to win 5 medals at the 2025 World Aquatics Championships. With the addition of Haroun, the Stars and Stripes gained a superstar and a stroke they've struggled at as of late, as the U.S. couldn't reach the top 10 in any butterfly event during the 2024 Paris Olympics. Haroun now has the chance to flip the script on the U.S.'s results and help what he sees as his home country. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Morgan Tremble.
Kenny Dillingham and his staff had quite the task at hand when the college football transfer portal opened at the start of the new year. After losing over 2/3 of its starters in 2025 to eligibility and to the portal. Tempe's ex-favorite QB wideout duo has played its last game together, but a new one may be on the horizon as Dillingham brought in the best receiver portal haul in the nation and the Big 12's third best overall portal class. Our Don Pacella has more details on the fresh faces coming to a gridiron near you this spring.
Well, after months of drama, rumors, and speculation, Leavitt left it. The former Arizona State QB traded in the dry heat of the Valley for the humidity of the Bayou, taking a deal to become the next starter of the LSU Tigers valued between $4 and $5 million. So now, while Sam Leavitt's kicking it in Baton Rouge with Lane Kiffin, some Sun Devil fans who carry some feelings of betrayal have taken to beating, burning, even barbecuing the number 10 jersey they once adorned. But fans may want to pump the brakes because Leavitt's absence may have done some good for the program. You see, that $4 to $5 million that Leavitt was looking for was able to be allocated throughout the program rather than just paying one player. With other heavy hitters for ASU like star wide receiver Jordan Tyson and cornerback Keith Abney off the books due to them declaring for the draft, more funds are available to build a more complete roster. Kenny Dillingham, who has previously had a reputation of retention, needed to prove himself in the transfer portal this offseason, as only a handful of 2025 Week 1 starters will return to Tempe this fall. Thus far, CKD has proven he could hang with the big dogs, as the Sun Devils currently have the 15th best transfer class in the nation, ahead of powerhouses like Oklahoma, Michigan, even Alabama. While ASU may have lost its star receiver in Jordan Tyson, it loaded up on wideouts in the portal, bringing in 4-star commits Amarion Miller from Colorado, Reed Harris from Boston College, and 3-star Raiden Vines-Bright from Washington. Obviously, you need someone to throw the ball to these guys, and Kentucky transfer Cutter Boley may be the right one to do it, as he passed for over 2,000 yards for the Wildcats last season and was a bargain compared to other top QBs on the market. The defense brought in some impressive names as well, including 4-star court linebacker Owen Long from Colorado State, the 5th highest ranked linebacker in this transfer class. Now, there are a lot of fresh new faces coming into Tempe, a lot of overturn, and a lot of gaps to fill. This team is going to have some different stars and potentially a new identity. But Kenny Dillingham recognized that he couldn't put all his eggs in one basket, not with ASU's limited budget, and was able to build a new roster of valuable players for the cost of a few superstars. Guys?
In 2024, Sun Devil Volleyball were Big 12 champions, and then head coach J.J. Van Niel had to hit the portal hard to revamp the roster for 2025. Well, in 2025, Sun Devil Volleyball were Big 12 champions again, and now J.J. Van Niel has to hit the portal hard again. For more on the fresh faces Sun Devil Volleyball fans could expect in Tempe this season, here's our Pratham Valuri.
Since head coach J.J. Van Niel took over in 2023, ASU Volleyball has made the NCAA tournament every season and is coming off of its second Sweet 16 appearance in 3 years. A 4-set loss to Creighton sent ASU crashing out of the tournament, but Van Neal already has reinforcements on the way. To counteract the losses of seniors Bailey Miller and Tatum Parrott, outside hitters Anaya Clinton and Una Vajagic are headed to Tempe. Clinton, a graduate student from Kansas State, had 351 kills for the Wildcats last year and slots in nicely opposite Noemi Glover, a first-team AVCA All-American. Vajagic spent her first 2 years at Wisconsin and had 307 kills and 275 digs, both second on the Badgers. The departures of setter Sydney Henry and Bryn Cavell also left ASU without a primary playmaker. In their spot, Van Neal brought in senior Isabella Costantini from the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, whose 10.6 assists per set ranked among the top 20 in the nation. In the middle, a Colby Neal-sized hole opened up with the Sun Devils' leading blocker graduating, but in walked sophomores Aurora Papats and Tosia Serafinowska. Papats played her freshman year at Kansas and was third on the team in blocks with 111, while Serafinowska, a Polish native, spent 2 seasons in Wisconsin prior to transferring to ASU. For Van Neal, staying stagnant isn't an option, and with these new faces in the locker room, ASU's gearing up for another run at the tournament next year. For Cronkite Sports, I'm Pratham Maluni.
Last Wednesday, ASU men's basketball lost to West Virginia 75-63. But the story of the night had nothing to do with the product on the court and everything to do with the appalling postgame comments of Arizona State's head coach, Bobby Hurley. Hurley claimed that his team didn't listen to him, that he was failing, and that ASU had no home court environment, among many other choice words. Hurley's always wore his heart on his sleeve, but to many fans, that night felt a little different. It felt like a broken coach, a broken man who's finally reaching his tipping point. But I'm not so sure it was that. I think that bridge may have been crossed long before that night. See, Hurley is currently ASU's second longest tenured men's basketball coach in program history at 11 years, but has never made it past the round of 64 and has been under 500 in 4 of the last 5 seasons. Although anyone could tell you Hurley deserves blame for squandered 5 stars and blown double-digit leads, was he ever truly set up for success by the university? Renovations to Desert Financial Arena were years overdue, and the funding Hurley receives is laughable compared to the top dogs of the Big 12. That's why there isn't much to take away from the dramatics of the West Virginia presser, because the writing has been on the wall for a while now. This is a coach who hasn't raised his team's ceiling, and a university that hasn't even really let him try to. With Hurley in the final year of his contract and an entirely revamped roster this season, this year was an obvious lame duck season. Yet still, fans and media alike persisted upon doing the same old song and dance. A few wins, and ASU is back. A few losses, and now Bobby Hurley sucks. Someone who's calling a spade is James Harden, who actually reposted our club's Instagram post of Hurley's polarizing postgame quotes. To me, that sends a message that he feels the disconnect too. And typically, when the only MVP from your program sends a message, you should listen. Hurley's tenure is a chapter so many have called to end, yet those same people cling to the first signs of improvement just for the ride to send them back down again. People need to stop getting drawn into the up and down roller coaster that has been these Sun Devils and accept the situation for what it is, which is that barring a miracle, Hurley likely won't be coaching at ASU next season, and that may have always been the plan regardless of whatever peaks and valleys this season presented. Hurley's had his faults, and the administration has had theirs too, but the pairing isn't built to last, and you know what? It's okay to just accept that, and that's the way it is.
Time now for some top plays. We showed you this one, but it was so nice, we just had to show you twice. Over to Marley Washnitz from beyond the arc. She nails the 3. This was a big play for the momentum of this Territorial Cup game here in Tempe.
Let's stay in DFA for ASU men's basketball's matchup against Cincinnati. Mo Odom pokes it loose, running the floor as ASU's floor general, but this assist was a little wacky, leaping out of bounds, hitting a Superman pose before swinging it over to Bryce Ford, who nails the 3 to finish the clip. ASU would go on to win that game, Gabby.
Over at Mona Plummer, it's the 100-yard breaststroke. Senior Andy Dobrzansky sets a pool record, broke Leon Marchand. Yes, Leon Marchand's previous record, finished in 51 seconds flat, swam the 200 breaststroke and won by 4 seconds later in the day as well, Jacob. But that is everything we have for you on today's edition of Cronkite Sports Live. Super fun to be at the desk, back with you for this brand new season, and so much more to come with spring sports starting soon.
Yeah, Gabby, this whole club has a lot of exciting things in store for 2026, but like you said, that'll do it for this episode. So from everybody who helped out in the control room, led by our executive producer, Ratisha Tacker, we appreciate everyone who tuned into this episode of Cronkite Sports Live, and we're saying so long from Studio 6.